Welcome to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Jenny James. While the weather outside might still be a little frightful, spring sports are delightful. We have a jam-packed show this week full of baseball and softball. Here at Northwest, we have some very excellent sports teams. The football team has 6 national championships, and the men's basketball team has hosted 2 regionals in the same number of years, picking up a national championship in one of those. But today we start with a sport that flies under the radar to most Bearcat fans, women's golf. The team is entering the meat of their spring season. This week they traveled down to the Henderson State Spring Invitational, but before they left, our reporter Maria Babcock sat down with the members of the team to discuss their season.
The Northwest Missouri State women's golf team is preparing for the end of their 2017-2018 season by getting ready for the conference tournament. With only a few tournaments left, it is highly competitive between the girls. Coach Andy Peterson talks about the team performance this season.
Pretty solid. We obviously had the fall semester where we played 6 tournaments and did some good things. Everybody shot, under 80, or with the exception of a couple, but they both shot 81. So we finished really well in some of the early tournaments. Played some tougher courses also, but all in all, with 9 girls, they're all pretty evenly matched. We've got a stroke average anywhere from 80 to 85. So with 9 girls all being kind of compact in that stroke range, it's competitive amongst the team especially.
The golf team is just as busy as any other sport. Junior Nikki McCurdy, who is currently breaking the school record of low average in a season with 80 even, goes through a weekly schedule of a Northwest golf athlete.
We are gone somewhere playing a practice round on Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday we play a tournament, and then Wednesday we usually have off, except for weights in the morning. And then Thursday and Friday we come out and practice a lot, and Friday we also have weights.
Spring weather is very unpredictable, but the girls have to be ready to play in any condition. They have to counter the weather in order to perform their best.
If it's cold, we have to club up. We have to hit longer shots because the ball doesn't fly as far, and we have to layer more. And then for the wind really affects our game. It depends on what club we hit into a green, kind of just where the ball goes and how it rolls.
The fall is different than the spring season. The atmosphere is more intense coming out of the winter, heading into the conference championship.
In the fall, we are all coming off of practicing a lot and playing a lot in the summer, versus in the spring, all winter we've been indoors. We haven't really been able to play outside. So the spring is more of a grind, just us trying to get into the groove and trying to get back to where we were in the fall. And it's a lot harder in the spring because of the weather, but I think we all do it very well.
The spring is our championship segment, so you have to be able to prepare, practice, and compete for that with that in mind.
Nikki and the team will continue to adapt to the changing weather while keeping their sights set on the MIAA Conference Tournament at the end of April. Reporting for Bearcat Update, I'm Maria Babcock.
Thanks, Maria. The Northwest baseball team started slow this season, but now the team seems to have heated up. The Cats entered the week riding a 3-game winning streak. Wednesday, the arch-rival Missouri Western Griffins came into town. Coming into the contest, the Griffins were in a slump on a 3-game losing streak. We were there to catch the highlights. 2 teams fighting for a top 5 spot in the MIAA. Bearcats trying to win a big game. In the first, Mondo Gutierrez, deep fly ball, turn and run center fielder. One hop to the fence, Gutierrez knocks in one with the double. Bearcats tie it up 1-1. Later in the first, Landon Fig drives the ball between first and second. Gutierrez scores from second. Bearcats lead 2-1. Cats win this one 8-4, pushing their winning streak to 4 games. The ace, Joseph Hippis, went 5 2/3, picking up his 5th win of the season. Mondo Gutierrez led Northwest from the plate, going 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 1 double. The baseball team has turned its season around. In February, the team started the season 6-6, but the team has hit its stride. In March, the team is 11-6. Right now, Northwest is 3rd in the conference, sitting at 12-5, but this might be misleading. The team has not played any teams within the top 5 spots. Next week, Northwest has a big 3-game series against the number 2 team, Central Missouri. We are going to take a quick break, but stick around. We have more baseball to come. You're watching Bearcat Update on KNWT Channel 8. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. I'm Jenny James. Maryville High School has also seen success in athletics within the recent years. The football team won the state championship this year, and the basketball team was one win away from the Final Four. One team has more successes than all the rest, the women's soccer team. The team has won 5 district championships in 5 years. Not one player on the team has played a season with the Spoofhounds in which they did not win the district championship. Our reporter, Becca Ross, caught up with the team to discuss their success and what they expect to accomplish this season.
The Maryville High School girls soccer team is off to a great start with a record of 3-1. With 5 consecutive district championships behind them and working for a 6th, Coach Reuter has nothing but confidence in his team.
We're going to work hard every day in practice. We're going to play our best players, and we're going to hold each other accountable, and we'll get what we need from that. I mean, that's just about the best you can do that.
With more than half of their team being freshmen and sophomores, Coach Reuter says there is a learning curve, but he's not worried.
Freshmen, every game to them is brand new. Each opponent that we play are brand new. We're going to have weaker opponents, and we're going to have very strong opponents. And we try to make our schedule as strong as we can, so they can see the more stronger opponents than the weaker opponents. But it's hard to get them. You try to talk to them and let them know what they're going to be facing, but until they're actually facing it, it's hard. So that's a little more difficult. There is more freshmen this year and more sophomores than we've had in the past that are thrown into those starting positions. And I think they're responding very well.
Senior Maddie Holtman, being one of only 4 seniors on the team, is confident in the younger players on the team to step up to defend their district championships.
Yeah, I hope that the upperclassmen are showing really good leadership and stepping up to what the upperclassmen did when we were freshmen and sophomores. Because I know they really helped us overcome our fears of the aggression of high school soccer. It's definitely faster paced, but the freshmen and sophomores this year, they're really stepping up and doing their job, and I'm really proud of them.
Having seen 4 district championships as she's been a part of the soccer team, Maddie is ready to take one step further and qualify for the state tournament.
Well, we can't really rely on what we've done in the past. Yes, it builds our confidence, but we're a new team this year than we were last year and the year before, and we really got to work together and overcome. We got to take it step by step, districts and sectionals, and hopefully we'll make it through quarterfinals this year and get to state where we want to be and do really well there.
Coach Reuter believes his team has what it takes to make it past districts this year to move on to state as long as they work together as a team, not just individuals on the field.
I think what you have to do is just continuously to remind them to be confident in themselves, continuously remind them that other people are counting on them. One of our big things is we've never been to state. We've won districts, we've won sectional game, we've never won a quarterfinal game, and we just want to keep making that step over and over again. So I like to tell them that each day we go out here, we're making history for Maryville High.
With most of their season to come and a district championship to defend, the Maryville's girls soccer team is ready to fight for another championship. For Bearcat Update, I'm Becca Ross.
Thanks, Becca. Before the break, we talked about the hot streak that the baseball team is on. This streak is missing one key player, Elixon Herrera. Herrera started in 31 games last year, but he suffered a knee injury early in March. He is also the only international player on the team. Our reporter Jake Wright sat down with Herrera to talk about his journey to the Bearcat baseball team.
Northwest Missouri State begun the 2018 season with high hopes. Injuries have been a struggle for the Bearcats, especially to starting catcher Elixon Herrera.
Right now I'm going to training room twice a day. We're doing stand. I'm trying to do some flexibility stuff for my ankle, and also I'm trying to get not to lose my strength on my quad. So I'm trying to do a couple of exercises to move my quad.
Herrera has been rehabbing with the incredible staff on campus and has been granted a medical redshirt, allowing him to play for the Bearcats next spring.
The first thing that I have tried to do is not having a negative attitude about it. Trying to be a leader inside the dugout. That's one of the huge things. An ending season injury is not fun for anybody, but I just don't want to drag anybody down, and I'm trying to help everyone. I just want to win the games,
In his senior year, Herrera was batting .367 with 2 home runs and 14 RBIs until a second-degree torn MCL ended his season. The catcher from Venezuela continues to rehab and improve for next season. For Bearcat Update, I'm Jake Wright.
We are going to take another break, but stick around. We have Coach's Corner to come. You're watching Bearcat Update on KNWT Channel 8. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. I'm Jenny James. The Northwest softball team was in action this week. Tuesday, Missouri Western came to town for a doubleheader. In the first game, the Cats were blown out 8-0. The Bats definitely didn't heat up in the second game, but the Cats pulled out the win 1-0. Rachel Smith pitched a two-hitter, striking out 8 Griffins, and she moved to 9-1 on the year. For this week's version of Coach's Corner, we've brought in the Assistant Sports Director from X106, Ryan Elliot. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's now, 3 times I've been on this semester, and last time you had me outside, so it's good to be back in the studio for a little bit.
Definitely. It was a very windy day. So going off of kind of the softball talk here, what are you seeing from the softball team as they are currently sitting third in the MIAA?
Right now they're playing really well. I've been excited to see the way that they've played, sitting at 16-10, 7-3 in conference play. They've really put it together well, especially at the plate. They've hit really well, hitting 341 on the year as a team. They're just really been able to put everything together at the plate. Outside of Rachel Smith, the pitching may not have been exactly where they wanted it to this point, but they've been able to put bats on balls for the most part and are doing a really good job at the plate.
Rachel Smith was a name you brought up, and she was named co-pitcher of the week last week. Who would you say are some other key players that have started to step up?
I think it starts at the plate. 2 of the best hitters on the team, Erin Keeney and Caitlin Weiss. Keeney leading the team in home runs with 10 on the year, Weiss right behind her at 8. Keeney leads the team in slugging percentage. They're both hitting over 300. They're really just a big 1-2 punch at the plate that this team's needed at this point.
Rachel, being a sophomore, it's definitely a positive. She has some years to grow. So what would you say are some expectations that we can see from her with many years to grow still?
I think sky's the limit for her. She's pitched really well this year, has a 2.20 ERA. You mentioned earlier, 9-1 in 13 starts this year. She's just done a really good job. She's pitched 9 complete games, which I think if you can expect her to continue to eat up innings, to continue to pitch well, to continue to just do all of the things that you expect from her this year, I think she'll just grow, and yeah, sky's the limit for her.
It's definitely exciting to see her and the team grow this year. Kind of switching gears now to baseball, how do you think the baseball team is looking? Kind of had a rough start to the season, but now they've started to really pick up their game.
They did start off a little bit rough. They had some pretty good opponents to start the year, and you talked about earlier, the schedule's weakened a little bit. They've been able to avoid the top teams in the conference up to this point, but they've come out, they've played well. Joseph Hidpus has pitched the ball really well. He's been the #1 guy at this point, and they just seem to be putting some things together right now to get them going to this back half of the season.
They had some home games this weekend, and all next week they will have home games as well. How does having that home field advantage contribute to their performance?
I think it's great to have. You get the home fans involved. You just get, there's usually some pretty good crowds at the baseball games. People show up and are really into it. And I think that just is a huge morale boost for the team. That gives them that just little bit of spark of energy. And I think you can carry that to some pretty good wins at home and with some pretty big series coming up.
You mentioned Joseph being a key player. Mondo Gutierrez is another one. He has just played lights out this year. Who are some other players that are kind of standing out to you?
You mentioned Mondo Gutierrez has played really well. Another guy that I look at who hasn't necessarily played at his top level, but I think has some expectations on him, is Landon Figg, a guy that hits middle of the order. He's got some pop. He can run a little bit. I think he's looking to pick his game up a little bit in the next few weeks, and he could be a dangerous piece in the middle of that order.
So what would you say the team needs to do to keep advancing, keep rolling, and play really good in the tournament, possibly bring home a conference title?
I think they've got to get that momentum going into the tournament. I think they've got some big series coming up. They've got Central Missouri coming to town next week, and that's going to be a big series, a team that's sitting in second place in the conference right now. And then the big idea is going to be, once you get toward their last series of the regular season is against Central Oklahoma, who's the team in first. If they can go in, get a win or two in that series and play well, then they can get some momentum going into that conference tournament.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see the baseball team do well and the softball team. Okay, switching gears again now to women's basketball. We had some exciting news a couple weeks ago. Austin Meyer is now the new head coach for the women's team. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's a great hire for the women's basketball team. Austin Meyer has had a really good history as the associate head coach of the men's basketball team the last few years, learned from one of the best in Ben McCollum, and he's got, to me, an opportunity to really make this team his own and build it with a lot of really good young players.
You mentioned he worked under Coach Mack, so what do you think, coming from like that culture, like what do you think he'll have to bring to the women's side?
I think it's perfect for him to come from that men's side because of the history of success that they've had under Coach McCollum. I think he can bring that culture over to the women's side a little bit more. Having learned from a guy like Coach McCollum, he can kind of bring some of the philosophies that he takes on the men's side. He's talked about, Coach Myers talked about a few times, wanting to bring in those 4- and 5-year players, the guys or the girls that will, kind of learn in this system, grow in this system, and become really what this team needs. And I think he's going to do a good job of finding those types of players and bringing them in, much like we've seen on the men's side.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be an exciting year to see what he can do with the girls. That's all the time we have for Coach's Corner. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to take a quick break, but stick around. We've got more to come on KNWT Channel 8. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. This week, the Bearcat tennis team hosts University of Nebraska Kearney Lopers. Our reporter Nolan Brooks was there to catch all of the action.
The Bearcats men and women's tennis team took on Nebraska Kearney in a conference matchup Wednesday. The men lost 5-4 and the women won 5-4, but the Bearcats totaled 6 singles victories and 3 doubles victories on the day. Coach Rosewell felt the Bearcats performed well overall.
It's obviously a very close match as it's going. It's probably going to be 5-4, 6-3 match either way. I think they're playing very hard. The men's doubles was 2-1, and then the women's doubles we were down 2-1. But I think it's a great match.
Rosewell feels his team has improved after the match, but still have little things to fix before their next one.
I think we've gotten match tough playing all the tennis we played over spring break. So I think we're there, just a few little things as far as double faults on serves and, some unforced errors, but that's easily taken care of.
Even though the tennis season is young, the men and women's teams are both 500 on the year after the Nebraska Kearney match and are seeking to move above that mark and stay there. For Bearcat Update, I'm Nolan Brooks.
Thanks, Nolan. The men's team is struggling compared to years past. This year, the team sits at 8-8, while last year they finished the season with only 4 losses. The women's team, on the other hand, is on the rise. Last year, they finished 8-13, and this year they are at 500, sitting at 7-7. That's all the time we have, but first, it's time for my top 3. Monday, women's golf travels to Arkansas for the Henderson State Spring Invitational. Baseball hosts a 3-game series against Central Missouri, and the track and field team hosts the MIAA versus the NSIC Showdown this weekend. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Bearcat Update. You can follow us on Twitter at BearcatUpdate_8 or watch all of our previous episodes on YouTube at KNWT8. Thanks for watching and have a great night. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Bearcat Update. You can find last week's episode over here and all of our previous episodes down here. Check it out.